How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting, and welcome to something different. If you didn't watch my previous two videos this week, you'll probably, well, the visual novels, you might not know that I had a pretty bad issue happen. So I normally had a little, like, a camcorder that I was using to capture my, like, the face. I like separating my media because it meant that if something goes wrong with one program or one particular piece of the computer issues, that, like, I don't lose everything. So I always liked separating them, and I had a camcorder. It's like detached from the computer, recorded my face, and I would upload everything to a device. Problem was, I had a bit of an issue. Now that I have these large gaps between my recording, inadvertently I left the thing on, and it was not recording, but essentially it was capturing and digitizing whatever it saw and kind of like running it through its systems. And by doing that, sitting there all week, just constantly on like that, which I've never done before, like I've never accidentally left it on to do that before. Washed out and broke. So now all the video it captures looks super grainy and green. Like it doesn't display any blues anymore. It just interprets them all as green. And it also looks like it's stepped down to like, I don't know, like 360p kind of quality. It's just awful. So now we're doing this. I might have to get a whole new camera, but I did a little digging around. I found my webcam. I think it'll be okay. It's definitely just really different. I kind of don't like how I look in the webcam camera, but at the same time I don't necessarily see how I can fix it or anything. I think it's just the way it is, and maybe there's something I can do physically that'll change it. Maybe there's not much I can do to change it. I'm also really stressed, so I might look a little frazzled, but you know, que sera sera, that's how these things go. We're gonna deal with it. I had to make those last video recordings, which were the visual novel recordings. I had to do them pure audio, which is always unfortunate, but not too bad. And maybe that's happening today. If you don't see my face, yeah, that's why I apparently it didn't work out. But we're trying, so let's just move on with it, shall we? Okay, back at Chaos Head, we are kind of getting more involved now. We also have the police that have actually seen footage of us. It's very grainy, but they're able to start drawing connections that's probably going to lead them in our direction. And then we realized in the very creepy video that we were sent before the crime happened, we are in that picture running away from the scene. So that's just crazy. So we're doing investigating, and we found some rumors about a band in Shibuya, the FES I think it was called. And apparently some of the lyrics seem to be implicating that they are talking about events that were about to happen. Like they're having premonitions. So it looks like we're going to go try and see this band and maybe somehow try and find a way to figure out if there is something to those rumors or if it's just nothing. And I think we're hoping it's going to be nothing, but we're kind of invested. Now, before we get too far into it, even though I know the heartbeat's pretty annoying, someone said in the tips section that that's I guess diagnostic results down here. So someone said that when you did the test you get the results, and it just never mentioned it last part. So let's take a look at that. So based on the results, based on what I said, it said you are moderately delusional, which is the most common diagnosis. Okay, so I'm normal. That doesn't seem right. You live a relatively comfortable life in the real world. You're likely able to spend around the same amount of time hanging out with friends as you do enjoying TV, video games, or other media by yourself. Human beings are creatures that require delusions and moderation. For such a thing is the reason why our minds are so enriched. In your case, I'm sure you can enjoy your delusions while still making the best of your real life. I think that's probably true. Going forward, it'll be important to maintain good balance between real life and delusion. If you allow your delusions to run too wild, you may find yourself in danger of becoming a freak in no time. I don't know. I feel like I've crossed that road. Word from ISA. I suggest you sing. Let song flow from your lips. Singing is an act that exists in reality. However, pouring your thoughts into song is an act born from delusion. Singing allows these two sides to coexist, and if you can share such a beautiful coalescence with many, that is why you should sing. And then a word from Yua. I by no means think it's weird to enjoy anime, but please don't let anime become the only thing you talk about in daily conversations. That's funny. And I wonder if, as we meet new characters, because like it's got extra space down here, I wonder if we'll get lines from other characters like as well. But I think that's interesting. It's interesting that it actually kind of diagnoses you based on your results. And I wonder if it changes based on, if someone implied that it will change if you do it differently. Like if you don't mark any of them, will it say that you have no delusion? It's like, hey, be careful of that. And then if you do all of them, it'll say you're extremely delusional. So I wonder if he would have, like, if our main character would have diagnosed himself with all of them. Oh, that's cool, though. Thanks for pointing that out to me. I'm glad we got to that. Now that we've done that, let's get into the real story. Hiding in the shadow of a telephone pole, I looked up at the gigantic concert hall from afar. After agonizing over it all day yesterday, I'd somehow managed to nut up and did what needed to be done. I hope that's just a turn of phrase, not literal. So here I was, gigantus. It was located on a narrow street of Shibuya beneath the elevated railroad track. It had a very distinct red brick exterior. So we're not in the wrong spot. The exterior was lit up too, giving off an old-fashioned austere vibe that made it feel as if I'd been transported back in time to the 50s or something. To think that a spot like this was in Shibuya, of all places, I'd had no idea it even existed until yesterday. It was only 5 minutes from the station on foot, yet there weren't very many people at all. Every once in a while, a train would pass over the elevated track with a tremendous roar, and a telephone pole I was hiding behind would tremble slightly, but that was about it. Just a moment ago, there'd been a bunch of what appeared to be Phantasm fans in front of the Gigantus. Some of them were wearing outfits so out there, I'd almost mistaken them for cosplayers. However, what surprised me the most was that there honestly weren't that many of them. Despite being such a huge topic online, there must have been no more than 100 people there. Regardless, they were all inside the building now, and the concert had begun, but since none of the audio managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. I'm so sorry, bro. This has gotta be rough. My head palpitations had gone away after I'd fallen asleep yesterday, but they'd come back with a vengeance the second I'd arrived in front of the venue. It'd been so hard to breathe, I'd almost thought I was dealing with some kind of heart failure. But really, I knew exactly why it was so bad. This place was filled with a thick, impenetrable darkness. The demon girl and her underlings could be lurking around any corner. Knowing that, I'd been on the lookout for anyone that might attack me ever since I got here. The sheer anxiety and paranoia was comparable to what it felt like going through Juan's volcano dungeon in ESO. Yeah, so this is the delusional part that he was talking about that it makes reference of in that diagnosis, was the idea that, like, your whole life starts revolving around video games and anime or whatever it is that you find to be of your obsession, and it starts becoming what you relate real life to. Now, you can make correlations, but it can't be everything. Mobs in the Juan's volcano dungeon were OP as heck. It was surrounded by a kind of lava that insta-killed you if you so much as clipped it with your pinky toe. That crap could have been play-tested. Couldn't have been play-tested. The amount of times I died there, holy crap. I wiped the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel and gulped down a gob of saliva. Ugh. Right as I did, the door at the top of the stairs opened and a furious beating of drums reverberated from inside Gigantus for a few seconds. A single guy exited from the door. He jogged nimbly down the stairs and then toward me. No way, is this gonna be our bro? Oh my gosh, it is. How do you know we're here? Oh, did we arrange to meet you? I had invited Misumi-kun to go along to the venue with me. As I didn't know his phone number, I'd been forced to go to school today just to ask him to go. Interesting. I wonder what he thought about that. If he hadn't come with me, I probably wouldn't have even made it this far. And even if I had somehow forced myself to go into the building alone, if the demon girl was there, I'd be a certified game over. So I had Misumi-kun operate as a scout. I did feel bad about throwing him into the line of fire, so I obviously hadn't told him about that part. The only people I could rely on him was him and Nanami, so I picked the less annoying of the two, Misumi-kun. I even covered his ticket cost, so in a sense, you could say I hired him for 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Misumi-kun handed me a Phantasm album. They were being sold for an outrageous premium in online auctions, but I'd heard that on that channel that they were also available at their concert, so I asked Misumi-kun to buy one for me. And now that I had one, I'd achieved half the goals I'd set out for myself. As for the remaining half,
いやー、予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Misumi-kun had been acting pretty excited ever since he'd exited the venue.
俺、あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
That's pretty good, but I think it's funny that he's like, I'm not a sheep, proceeds to sheep. The other thing I'd asked Misumi-kun to do was report anything in particular that stood out about the band members. I knew they would all come out on stage once the concert started, so all I'd wanted him to do was quickly scan their head back and then head back to me right after. And yet, despite my very specific instructions, he hadn't come back for a full 5 minutes after the show started. This is probably because he'd listened to the entirety of the first song. Also, it's hard to navigate. Even if this is a smaller get-together, it's likely pretty packed. So getting to the spot where you buy the CDs and then going in and getting a good look at the band, that could have taken quite a while. Like 5 minutes is pretty reasonable.
特にボーカル。ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。
Yeah, it's true. From what we saw of her in like the weird kind of cutaway we had, she did seem pretty cute.
お前、女見る目あるな。
I sighed internally, thinking with the wrong head as usual. Why was I even surprised? So much for I'm no sheep.
どんな人だった？
ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白いな。そう思わねえ？
He's just like, "Hi, I'm cool with this." Misumi-kun grinned to himself, and I pressed him again to tell me about FES's appearance.
髪型はショートカットだった。
え？
And just like that, there was already a huge discrepancy. Did this mean that FES wasn't the demon girl? No, wait. I couldn't let myself jump to conclusions here. She could have cut her hair, or she could have used hair extensions, or she could have changed in some other way. It wouldn't surprise me if she'd been in disguise when I'd seen her at the crime scene.
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？
Uh-huh. Interesting.
背が。
And the same height as you. Misumi-kun and I were about the same height, which meant FES was probably about 170 centimeters tall. Pretty tall for a girl. But I hadn't gotten that impression at all when I'd encountered the demon girl. My memories from back then were hazy, but I still felt like the demon girl had been shorter than me. Yet another thing that didn't line up then.
他には？
そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。
Ah, soft-spoken.
胸のサイズはまあまあ。
Well, thank you, sir.
でもゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
He's just like, whatever. Yeah, nothing phases you, bro. Oh, gosh darn it. Every single word he said was completely effing useless. Then again, I'd only gotten a quick look at the demon girl, so I couldn't exactly list her features. This plan was probably doomed from the start.
ってい
Probably.
うかよ。そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
Come on.
え？
Come on, Mo. Let's do it. Misumi-kun began to push me from behind, forcing me up the stairs to, Gigantus. Gigantus? I don't know what that's supposed to be. Gigantic, whatever. I desperately tried to fight back, but Misumi-kun was stronger than me, and I couldn't get away.
待って。
見たいんだろ、フェスの顔を。素直になるって。浮気ってのは男の差がだよな。たくも大人になったもんだぜ。
No, no, no.
は？
この前一緒に帰ってたメガネの子のことは今夜だけは気にすんなって。俺も田中のことは忘れるからよ。
Bro, what a douche. What the heck was he talking about? I tried to stand my ground and fight back, but to my horror, I realized that I was already at the top of the stairs. While it was only a second floor, if we were to slip and fall, it would hurt like hell. The thought just made me stop resisting as hard. And in that moment of weakness, my entire body weight was sent crashing through the door and into the venue. Here we go. Give her shake! The second I hit the inside, an explosion of sound blasted my eardrums. I'd never experienced something so loud before. Even the pit of my stomach was being forcibly shaken by the vibrations. It was so intense that I felt like my entire body was being crushed to pieces. There was no seats in the venue. Everyone was standing up to watch. They were all rocking their bodies to rhythm with each other, shouting "Fez, Fez, Fez" as their fists shot up and down. Still nowhere near the level of a Wataji performance, though. Wataji. What's Wataji? A unique cheer or performance that selected fans enact at idol concerts and other live shows. Some performances include very intense physical movements with each other, and one of the movements having a specific name to them. Fans in the audience performing Wotaji in perfect coordination is a sight to behold. I think I've seen clips of that. It does look pretty cool. Like, it's usually with the glow sticks, right? And they like do like almost like choreography, like dance in time with the music. It's impressive that they can pull that kind of coordination off. The heat was devastating. It made me want to vomit. I do hate like how hot it gets when you go to things like this. I might have been an otaku, but I was definitely not the type to obsess over idols or voice actors. Honestly, I hated this kind of atmosphere. I could tell I stuck out like a sore thumb, but thankfully nobody was paying any attention to me. There were so many people in front of me, I could barely see the stage from this far into the room, just the blinding stage lights and the faint figures of 4 people standing under them. And as I was getting overwhelmed by everything happening around me, Masumi-kun handed me a plastic cup of soda. Seemed like Masumi-kun had paid for my ticket too. I'd have to make sure to pay him back later. That's kind of a nice thing of him. Now, why are we just staring at a door? Like, is this one of those things where like they edited something out? Like, I hope not, because we're just looking at a door. I figured we'd see the band by now. Before I knew it, the song was over and the audience clapped and cheered. Then, having seemingly calmed down a little, everyone brought down their fists. Thanks to that, the road to the stage finally opened up and I was able to see it clearly. I got a good look at the short-haired girl standing in the middle of the stage. She was definitely not the demon girl. Am I gonna see her? Thank goodness, okay. Alright. So she is very goth. It's interesting too because like she definitely didn't have this getup on when we saw her on the bridge. So does she actually like to dress like this or not? That's the real question. Is it performance or not? The voice coming through the amp sounded nothing like the demon girl that had said those cryptic words to me. Masumi-kun was right. Fez definitely had an aloof vibe to her. Despite her short hair, she didn't feel boyish. She gave off this mysterious aura with a mix of charm, allure, and a hint of distance. And to top it all off, the silver accessories she was wearing all glittered fantastically as they reflected the lights. It felt like I was starting to understand why there were so many threads about her on that channel. In this kind of concert, I always thought that the band members would be more energetic, but Fez seemed incredibly indifferent during the intermission. She was pretty much the exact opposite of the excited audience. Maybe that was just the type of person she was. But it seemed like the audience wasn't surprised by that. They just stayed silent during the break, listening closely to Fez's words. Oh no, Cocytus, that sounds familiar. Cocytus, the Greek mythology is one of the two rivers located at the entrance to the underworld. The name translates to River of Lamentation. The dead cross this river in order to enter the underworld. I had forgotten that completely. For shame, me. But it's also funny because like it's reminding me, she reminds me of like Okabe from like Steins Gate, because like she's talking, but she's kind of earned the right to do so because she's a performer. So it makes more sense. It's not as cringy. I'm sorry, what? Cocytus? What language was she even speaking? The greater will? Okay. Okay. Accept your chaos. Oh, I guess they were a goth punk band, so the band members probably had characters that they played. Maybe it was an easy way to win over the hearts of fans, just spout some random nonsense that hinted that it might mean something, give it enough mystique and keep people engrossed. That's also what a lot of YouTubers are. Whether they are trying to like portray a specific kind of character, or they are just using a persona of themselves to kind of hide behind. And I think that it works. It's very successful. I feel like people are drawn to the conceptualized, idealized versions of other people, whether it be them, like I said, themselves, or they're playing a character. Like a lot of VTubers are playing into a character. You'll hear themselves in there, obviously, but a lot of times they're playing up to a show, and that's what it is. It's entertainment. It's a show. That's what I'm not, unfortunately. I wish I were talented enough, And I wish I had the drive to do it, but for some reason, I mean, not some reason, I know the reason. I love just making content that I love talking about, and I love showing games that I feel don't get enough attention. So, yeah, you just get me. Not really much of a performance. I will say, of course, I have my own secrets. I purposely obscure like too much personal details. I also don't tell you everything, obviously. I'm my own person, but at the same time, I display for you as an audience of the channel a part of me that I don't really get to show anybody else. So take that for what it's worth. All right, anyway. Speaking of Mystique, Fez was holding something strange in her hand. In her left hand was the plain old mic, but in the other she was holding some sort of weirdly shaped mic stand. It looked kind of like a sword. Oh, interesting. So we've seen like the weird sword in the intro. It was shaped so elegantly, it felt sinister. It looked so sharp that even if you so much as grazed it, it would slice your finger in two. It was huge too, as tall as Fez in fact. There was also lines of glass embedded into it, which glowed with an ominous blue light. I couldn't tell if it were really a sword or not, but either way, it wasn't half as bad as the character accessory, no complaints there. I was strangely captivated by it. Then, using only her right arm, Fez casually lifted the huge mic stand. And with an underhand grip, she swung it sideways. The blue light from the glass drew a wide arc with its afterglow. What the heck? That was so dangerous! What if it hit someone in the crowd? That wasn't a mic stand. Could it be a sword? And every night she would use it to cut the throat of some poor audience member, harvesting blood to offer to the demon girl or something? So was this concert actually some sort of black mass organized by a bunch of witches? A fierce chill ran down my spine just thinking about it. Goosebumps covered my entire body. I really should get out of here ASAP. But at the minute I thought that met without a gentle whisper. Oh, is she gonna say it? Whose eyes are those eyes? Say it. Do it.
次は3曲目。密教の首飾り。
The necklace of Vajrayana. The crowd let out a huge cry of joy upon hearing that. Is it a new song? Oh yeah, look at that. She does look kind of cool. That outfit's great, actually, yeah. Holy cow. And look at that sword. Yeah, so like, band members, the sword. Outfit is cute. Approve, approve, approve. A moment later, the members of Phantasm all started playing, and a second flood of sound poured into my ears. And it's actually playing a music. This video is getting claimed. A thunderous roar came from the speakers, a roar that felt like it was going to blow up my eardrums. How have these people not gone deaf yet, hanging out in a place like this all the time? Looking out to my side, I noticed Misumi-kun was fully into it, pumping his fist in sync with the rest of the audience. The intro ended, Fez began to sing, and when I heard the lyrics, I swallowed hard. Yeah, what is it? She was singing the prophetic song that had been posted all over @channel. It was a dark piece that didn't feel the slightest bit optimistic. Even its melody felt like a religious psalm, and the lyrics definitely didn't help. Everyone was getting riled up at first, but as the song went on, the excitement dropped further and further, and by the end, everyone just stood there not saying a word. But that was because everyone was fully lost in the sound. Some of them just stared at Fez, completely entranced. There was definitely something about Fez's singing voice that captivated people. Even as I battled fear and nausea in the middle of the crowd, I found myself listening very closely to her song, not wanting to miss it. Interesting. Goosebumps sprang up all over me. For a moment, it felt like the air itself had frozen over. The song ended. Fez was looking down at the stage, swaying her body from side to side as she soaked in the last echoes of the music. And then she suddenly looked back up, and without ever gazing around for a second, she instantly looked at me. Oh man, a delusion. Looked at me. Yes, she did! Oh, fetch! So I've seen delusions. I don't want to delude right now. And it wasn't like she just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she'd briefly made eye contact with me, or anything like that. Fez was blatantly looking right at me. I'd even go as far as to say she was staring at me fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within her heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet somehow she seemed a little sad. Before I knew it, I was rushing outside. I ran down the stairs outside of Gigantus and crouched down at the bottom step. I tried my hardest to catch my breath and calm down, but to little avail. I really shouldn't have gone in there. My heart was pounding. My entire body was drenched in sweat.
おい、どうしたんだよ、タク。いきなり飛び出して。
Misumi-kun had followed me. He sounded upset.
もう出ちまうのかよ。これからさらに盛り上がりそうだったのに。で、どうだよ、フェスは。可愛かったろ。
I agree, but that's not the point. Without looking up at him, I shook my head. Who cared about that? Sure, she was cute, but I wasn't into 3D girls, and more than anything, those lyrics. I hadn't caught everything, but from the little I'd heard, there was no way they'd been talking about the NewGen cases. Of course, there was no definite proof. But Fez definitely knew something. I could feel it. But I couldn't tell whether or not she worked for the demon girl, though. The girl, now dyed a brilliant red, looks back from beneath a full moon. But she looked straight at me. And that hadn't been a delusion, and it wasn't a misunderstanding on my part either. There was no doubt about it. Fez had looked at me. Just what were those emotions swelling in her eyes? What meaning did they hold? Why had her expression looked so painful? I didn't know. Maybe I'd find out if I asked her directly, but that never happened. I couldn't set foot in that concert venue ever again, let alone speak with Fez.
もう二度と来るもんか。
Wiping the sweat off my forehead, I managed to squeeze out those words. So I don't get it though. Like, if I had gone delusional there, I would have seen some kind of bonus scene. And then would he be able to dismiss what happened and be like, oh, she couldn't have been looking at me? Or would he still embrace that thought otherwise? Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not sure what the role of I don't know what the delusions do for the story, and it's driving me crazy. Don't tell me, but it's driving me crazy. I logged straight onto ESO as soon as I got back from the Phantasm concert. The potato chips I had with me were already soggy, but I couldn't care less. They were still surprisingly tasty. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place, a breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. As long as I could immerse myself in ESO, I could forget about all my troubles. I could stop being me and instead wander Baselard as Neathart. But today, for some reason, Neathart was a little off. Yes, I knew he relied entirely on my inputs and my decisions, but somehow I found myself struggling to pull off things I could normally do with my eyes closed. The game was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but today, the more I played it, the more irritated I got. That sucks. When you've got something going on that's so tumultuous that the things that normally let you relax start becoming annoying to you, that's a danger sign. That's a sign that you might need to go talk to somebody, or at the very least, you need to like decompress, because like when the stuff that normally like lets you vent steam isn't working, it's going to lead to bigger problems.
なんだよこいつ！捨てるぞお前！
Oh, bro. I knew it was all my fault, but I still took my anger out on Neathart.
ああもうムカつく！
I yanked at my hair and kicked the bare steel wall. Having let out all my anger, I took a deep breath and sat back down in my chair. I stared vacantly at the monitor. Neathart was just standing there, facing toward the gates of the city of Shangri-Lu, free of my control. His back was facing toward me, just as it always was when I fought enemies, and of course, he was at maximum level.
僕の経験値っていくつなんだろう？
Had the human known as Nishijo Takumi leveled up even slightly since he started playing ESO? No, since he'd been born. If I had, then why was I still so bad at talking to people, even though I was nearly an adult? Why was I a borderline shut-in? If I didn't log in as Neathart for weeks, would he also turn to a shut-in like me? Whose eyes are those eyes? I suddenly remembered those words as I stared at Nearheart's back. I was mildly interested in what Nearheart would do if I wasn't controlling him. So figuring I'd observe him for a little bit, I left my keyboard alone and ate some chips.
もしナイトハルトに自我があるとしたら、
Then surely he'd waltz right into the city of Shangri-Lu, wind blowing against his shoulders, right? He was the hero everyone worshipped, after all. Another delusion.
ねえ、ナイトハルト。僕はいつでもお前を見てるんだぞ。
He's talking.
お前はそれに気づいてるの。
Alright, maybe we'll do a delusion this time. Let's see what happens. And then let's go to the 2D world. I hadn't typed anything, and yet Nearheart still spoke. Thinking it was just an optical illusion, I rubbed my eyes, but the message was still there, displayed in the chat. I don't like this one already. So, visual illusion phenomena for information is perceived incorrectly, but the person perceiving is still able to logically discern that it's incorrect. This happens regardless of the person's mental state. One of the most famous examples is the Mueller-Lear illusion. Sight is established when light received by the eyes is transmitted to the cerebrum via the optic nerve. Once it reaches that location, it acts as a stimulus, and the light information is translated into what we perceive as sight. However, this process involves extrapolating the structure of the external world based purely on light information, which is only made possible by utilizing a filter of empirical data. This leaves room for errors in perception. There's a theory that states that optical illusions occur when the error is generated as a result of the brain operating under a cause and effect hypothesis, but all arriving at a false conclusion. In this case, the conclusion based on one's experience up until that point does not match up with reality, causing dissonance. As well as this, there's a theory that humans block out 99% of what they perceive. It said that if a person were to process all 100% of what they perceive, they would not be able to remain sane. Go to the 2D world? What was that supposed to mean? I don't like these positive ones.
それって僕に言ってるの。
Let's see. Even you can be a hero. We'll fight together. You're not into 3D, right? You couldn't care less about that.
いや、そうだけど。
Nearheart was speaking to me, the player, controlling him. What the fetch? Did he have a will of his own after all? Place your hand on the monitor. When you do, you'll be able to enter Baselard as Nishijo Takumi. The password is... Whose eyes are those eyes?
だが断る。
But I refuse.
二次元世界に行くなら、せっかくだから僕はエロゲの世界を選ぶぜ。バゼラードはお前に任せるよ。ナイトハルト。
So the one thing that stopped him from trying to actively go into a 2D world is that he doesn't think this one will be as fun. After replying, I used forceful shutdown to turn off my computer. Probably for the best. I don't like that. I don't like the delusions at all. The negative ones are really like kind of like depressing, and so far the positive ones have been like their own brand of horror. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I reluctantly decided to go to school today, but before I knew it, I found myself going to buy a phone with my little sister. Aww. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand it either. I thought I was going insane. Short for the full quote, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I blank, but before I knew it, blank. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand either. I thought I was going insane. It wasn't anything simple like hypnosis or super speed. On top of that, it feels as if I only got to experience the tip of the iceberg. Quotation from a popular manga about bizarre adventures. Oh, so it's a JoJo quote? Often used in order to cope with difficult to understand situations in a comedic fashion.
お兄何ブツブツ言ってんの
Oh boy. Hey!
それよりほらこの機種はどうかって聞いてるんだけど
Hello, sis. I think I want to go home. Besides, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't need a cell phone? It hurts having a sister that's brain dead. When I'd gone to school today, Nanami had made her assault right in my classroom after happily saying, "Wow, you actually came to school today." She ordered me to go outside and buy a phone with her once school was over. Once the bell rang, I tried to escape without her noticing, but I'd forgotten how quickly Nanami was on her feet. So after being chased and easily caught up to, I found myself being dragged all the way to the front of the station. Didn't want to go anywhere near the station. I felt like the whole way there. Now even now I already felt like I was gonna throw up. Nanami, though, not giving a dime about what I felt, was busy admiring the many different models on display in the front of the store. Jesus, style nice. I tried to wrap my head around what exactly Nanami was so interested about getting me a phone and just got a headache instead.
これ色が結構可愛いじゃん。いいと思うな。
Uh-huh. Since she was asking for my opinion, I gave a simple reply.
それっていい？
でもな、お兄にはちょっと可愛すぎかも。似合わなさそう。
See, didn't even matter what I said. It would have happened regardless. It wouldn't have happened regardless. I completely lost track of how many times I'd said that's fine by this point. She'd ask for my opinion, but then she didn't actually intend to listen to it. This is exactly why 3D girls sucked so much.
お兄、大丈夫？やっぱり人の多さにやられちゃった？
Oh, she totally gets him.
マクディで休もうか？
McD? The fetching prime hangout spot for DQNs? That place is hecka incarnated. I violently shook my head no.
そっか。じゃあなるべく早めに決めるね。でもちょっと迷っちゃっててさ。
I sighed, deciding to just leave Nanami behind and go home. While Nanami intensely examined the array of cell phones, I took my chance to slip away. Right as I turned toward 107, I saw something so strange it stopped me dead in my tracks. What was that? What is this? Let's see. Across the crowds of people on the stairs to 107 stood a girl that stuck out like a sore thumb. Can I see her? I mean, I don't see anything that sticks out more than anything else. Was she holding a sword? The color and aura it gave off felt somewhat similar to the mic stand that Fez had been using at the concert. In fact, I'd say it was perfectly fair to think of them as the same vein. But even then, it was still one massive sword. Might have been even longer than Fez's mic stand. Now, it's making me feel like a massive sword. Like, it's obviously like an anime trope, but it also makes me think of the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. I've talked about before, but his latest version, like book, the latest title in that series just came out, so I've been listening to it, so it's on the brain. But yeah, if you ever want a story about massive swords and like just how cool they can be, and how, especially when you apply it in a logical way, where it's not just like, oh, it's a big sword because it's a big sword. It's like, no, this big sword works in this world for reasons, and it's really cool. It's well done. Highly recommend reading Stormlight. To my surprise, the girl was wearing a Suime uniform. Couldn't make out her face from the distance, but despite holding something so conspicuous, the girl seemed relaxed as could be. She simply watched the people walk down the street from atop the stairs. Talk about bravery, I was seriously impressed. I couldn't believe she was walking around right smack in the middle of Shibuya with that massive toy sword. Must have had one heck of a humiliation fetish. Was the sword a cosplay prop from some new anime? Then again, I was pretty familiar with all the anime that were airing. Was that really a series with a sword like that? Had it slipped under my radar. Of course, walking around Shibuya holding one would be too much for me, but the sword itself was pretty darn cool. Kinda wanted to go get one, honestly. I wondered if I could get one in Akiba. Even better if I could order it online.
Oni!
Uh-oh. Ah! I was suddenly struck with an elbow in the back. The pain almost made me black out and collapse on the spot. I turned around to find Nanami with her hands on her hips, solemn as could be.
もしかして逃げようとした？
No comment. Uh-oh.
確かにナナが選ぶのに時間かけすぎたのは悪いと思うけどさ。
Aw, pouty.
だからってナ
Aww.
ナを置き去りにして逃げようとするなんてひどいよ。
That is really mean. I lazily shook my head from side to side.
お兄のバカ、携帯の電磁波の浴びすぎで腎臓を悪くして死んじゃえ。
I like how you believe that that could happen, and then you still use one. Still. She has such great, like animation for her like sprite. It's great. The fetch was her deal.
一生懸命お兄のために選んであげてたナナがバカみたいじゃん。
Aww.
こうなったらもう適当に決める。お兄なんてナナと同じ機種で十分だよ。
Nanami forcefully grabbed my arm.
本 気で今日契約するんだからね。それまで絶対逃がさない。
わかったよ。話せよ。
わかったならさっさと来て。
Yeah, go get. I didn't have a clue what Nanami had gotten so worked up. She really was a pain in the butt. She cares, bro. She cares. That's why. It seems like she wants to have a relationship with him. Not like a creepy one. I mean, like, she wants to feel like she has a brother, right? She wants to feel like that means something because he's so disconnected from the family. In the end, Nanami picked out a model with ease, as if she hadn't just spent 10 years trying to choose. After spending around an hour on the contract and other technical stuff, I tried to finally head back to home with my phone, but Nanami stopped me.
ナナが初期設定してあげるからマクディやろ。
Oh boy. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed me by the back of my collar and dragged me to the nearest McD against my will. Oh, look at that. It's like so on point. Even the
どう
garbage
せお
is...
兄、携帯持って帰っても電源入れずにほったらかしにするに決まってるんだから。
Yeah, probably.
ナナがちゃんと使えるようにしてあげる。
Gosh darn it, how much longer was she planning to hold me hostage? And out of all places she could have chosen to do it in, why McD? The inside of the Shibuya McD was the embodiment of chaos. There were crap loads of people, and none of them ever shut up. The sheer amount of DQNs was off the charts. At the table right next to us sat 3 DQN tier mothers with their dyed brown hair, and to make things even better, they'd brought all their kids with them. They just left their children, 3 little crotch goblins with red highlights to be specific, to run around with the restaurant squealing their heads off instead of controlling them. They just kept on chatting away. At a different table was yet another group of DQNs, this time made up of 4 high school guys, all laughing at like obnoxious pricks. Next, 2 high school girls, complete with baggy socks and dyed brown hair, sat opposite each other, hyper-focused on their phones, that didn't even bother talking. Besides them was a snoring middle-aged businessman slumped down at his table, making it pretty obvious that he was skipping out on work. But what really made me double-take was the table close by with a group of 5 elementary schoolers, some boys, some girls. They all sat there with their little school bags on the floor, happily chatting up with each other as their legs swung back and forth beneath the table. That's actually kind of fun. So, considering it was co-ed, was it a mixer? It was, wasn't it? Weren't they elementary schoolers? Well, regardless, the point is that as far as the eye could see, there were groups of people that I avoided like the plague. Nanami had no problem at all relaxing in a place like this. Me, on the other hand, just setting foot in here only served to make my headache and nausea 1,000 times worse. Wait, why the heck did I have to play along with my sister and stay here in the first place?
ねえねえ、着信メロディーはどうする？なんか希望ある？
Without even looking in my direction, Nanami played around with my phone as she prodded me for an answer.
アニソン。
キャッカー。
Oh.
そんなだからお兄はオタクさんなんだよ。
Oh no, there's much bigger reasons than this. You're the one asking me what I prefer. Come on, it's my phone. Let me pick what I want.
あ、そうだ。大村彼らの新曲にしたら？あれすっごくいい曲だよ。最近のナナのお気に入り。
Oh, what if we ask about FES?
それこそ却下だ。
まあ、お兄に大村彼らは似合わないか。
Yeah. After showing how little she actually cared about what I thought, Nanami took a bite of one of her french fries. I should probably mention that this bee asked for a fish sandwich combo before dinner, one that I had to pay for. I, meanwhile, was feeling so garbage my appetite was long gone. Piece of crap sister spoiling her appetite and mine. Effing bull crap.
あ、そうそう。それとね。
Yeah. For whatever reason, Nanami placed her bag on her lap and started digging through its contents.
お、あったあった。
Yeah. Then she proudly took out... Oh, it's him.
ゲロカエルンの不良品。
Defective?
不良品じゃないよ。先週出たギョロリゲロカエルン。
Oh, they just got bug eyes.
は？
知らないんだ。やっぱ遅れてるな、お兄は。ゲロカエルンって毎週金曜日に新作が発売されてるんだよ。もう
Dang.
全部で12種類ぐらいあるんだから。
Seriously? Was there really enough demand for weekly releases? Also, that means this incredibly popular figure that Yuna had like 4 of There's only 12. It's only been going for 12 weeks.
ナナが携帯につけてるのは最初に出た普通のゲロカエルンでしょ。で、次がデブッチョゲロカエルンで、その次がカクカクゲロカエルン。
Oh my gosh. Without skipping a beat, Nanami recited the names of the various Gero froggies.
第4弾がのっぺらゲロカエルンで、第5弾が輝くゲロカエルン。第6弾が一番人気があって猫ゲロカエルンっていうの。
Why is the cat frog the popular one?
その後が幽霊ゲロカエルン、眠るゲロカエルン、燃えるゲロカエルン、ゾ
Burning?
ンビゲロカエルン、酔っ払いゲロカエルン。
Drunk? How the heck does she remember all those? Hang on, has she?
お前コンプリートしてるの？
もちろんだよ。全部集めなきゃ意味ないもん。
Uh-huh.
毎週買うのに行列ができるんだからね。
For a half-baked piece of garbage like that, to be honest, even I could crap out a better design. Wait, why had she even decided to start lecturing me on Gero Froggy to begin with?
というわけで、このギョロリゲロカエルンあげる。
Aw, that's so sweet of her. Even though he's not gonna care, it's still very sweet.
なんで？
このストラップを携帯につければ、少しは女子から「お、やるな」っていう目で見てもらえるから。
After saying that, Nanami started to pull the strap on my phone. I didn't want that. What the fetch?
コンプしなきゃ意味ないんだろ。僕がそれもらったらお前揃わないぞ。
心配しなくても大丈夫。2つ買ったもん。
She's gotcha.
毎回2つ買ってるのか？
I was starting to seriously doubt her aesthetic taste.
今回だけだよ。お兄の携帯用に余分に買ったの。
Aww.
わざわざ。
わざわざ。
Aww. Having now finished attaching the strap, Nanami gave a satisfied nod before wrapping her mouth around her soda straw, and then she suddenly leaned forward, startling me.
別に並んだのはお兄のためじゃないよ。
Oh my gosh, what the fetch?
あくまでついでなんだから。
What's with the tsundere line?
いらない。
はあ？
Still leaning forward, Nanami opened her eyes wide. She looked like she might throttle me at any moment.
いらないって、ナナがわざわざ買ってきてあげたのに。
ついでだったんだろう。っていうか僕ゲロカエルンとか興味ないし、むしろキモいし。
Oh.
だからお兄は女子にモテないんだよ。
She's got a point. I'd almost expected her to slap me, but surprisingly, Nanami managed to rein in her temper and sit back down. Then instead of taking her anger out on me, she started nibbling on a fry instead as she sulked.
でも抵抗しても無駄だからね。ギョロリゲロカエルン、もうくっつけちゃったもん。
She sure was acting like the queen of everything. Then again, I knew jack crap about cell phones, so it was true Nanami knew best here.
もし勝手に外したら毎週並んでもらうの刑だからね。
Uh-huh.
並ぶって何に？
決まってんじゃん。新作ゲロカエルンを買うための行列。2時間待ちとか普通だから。
Oh no. Not a chance in hell. No way was I gonna let my sister hit me with a threat like that. For a while after that, Nanami wordlessly continued to fiddle around with my phone. Wasn't particularly picky about whatever she was setting up, so I honestly was grateful for the silence.
なんだか変な気分だな。
The next time she opened her mouth, her sullen demeanor from before had completely disappeared. I guess she only needed a few minutes to forget annoying crap instead of having to sleep it off. Talk about easy going. In a way, I envied her.
うん、やっぱ変だよ。
Wait,
お
what?
兄とこうして2人で出かけるのって久しぶりな気がするもん。
I mean, that's probably true.
いつ以来かな。よく思い出せないや。お兄はいっつも部屋にこもってアニメ見てるかゲームしてるかだもんね。ま、たまにはこういうのもいいかな、新鮮で。
Aww.
さすがに毎日はナナも嫌だけど。
Oh my gosh, stop it! No! It's too adorable! We're gonna die of cute. Nanami placed my phone on the table, picked up her fish sandwich. She happily undid the wrapping and heartily sank her teeth in. Come to think of it, I feel like she'd said this at one point. Said at one point the fish sandwiches here were her favorite food.
せいぜい太るがいいさ。
Oh. Nanami instantly stopped moving. She glared at me menacingly. Then, after hesitating for a second, she bashfully held out her half-eaten fish sandwich. Oh my gosh!
半分食べる
Oh my gosh! She's a saint! He literally, like, just called her out saying, like, hey, you're gonna get fat. And she's just like, you want half? Like, what saint is this that's before us?
もう手遅れだよ。
そういうこと言うと上司に嫌われるって覚えといた方がいいよバカ鬼
Baka Oni. Idiot brother. Nanami ended up finishing this fish sandwich all her own. What a effing you suck. Go away, dude. She's like the sweetest sister you could ever ask for. Judgment is nigh for this city. Interesting. I feel like things are going to take a turn here. We've had a lot to do, and I had to deal with a lot of crap just to get this far. So I think we'll end it here. I'm probably going to do longer episodes, but I've been finding that, like, I go back and recently I've been doing like hour-and-a-half videos. It's a lot to sit through, I think. And like, while I don't mind that too much, I do want to keep it closer to an hour. So maybe we'll just balance out the books here and kind of end it this time. So thank you so much for your patience. We'll see what happens next time, but that was pretty fun. We got to see FES on stage. We got to see Nanami in the shop with like the most, gosh, she's too good for this world. He doesn't deserve her as a sister. She's amazing. She's so sweet. But that's the thing too, is I think she's like, she misses him. She wants to like have a sibling relationship where like they can kind of spend time together, and she might even watch her friends, like go to her friend's house and see how they interact with their siblings, and feel like she just missed out on having that connection, and she just wants to kind of see if she can build it up. So very, very sweet. I hope he gets better. I really feel like he's so terminally like online. I just don't see it happening, but you know, maybe he'll learn and grow as things happen. That's why I'm going to Okabe. He certainly learned and grew and became a much better person over time. So hopefully he will as well, but it's a lot to have to get in. We'll have to see. And we'll have to see what's going on. Like, will we see the girl he saw with the sword again? Like, what was that about? And what are these swords about anyway? We saw a pink-haired girl with one in the intro sequence. Now we've seen FES with one, and another girl with one just in the middle of like Shibuya proper. So what's with the whole sword thing? Like what, I want to know what those are. They're so interesting. But yeah, we'll have to find out, I suppose. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully the webcam change up is not too drastic or bad. If you have advice on things I could change, maybe like something I could do to adjust it that you think might help, I'd love to know it. Otherwise, just give me your thoughts and input about the episode, about the setup, all of it. I'm always happy to hear from you. Hope you have a great rest of your week. If you're watching this the day it comes out, I will be getting at the end of my week, and I'll be exhausted, but happy to respond to messages and all of that as usual. So thank you so much for your support, especially the patrons and members. You're all amazing. I don't deserve you. I hope you know it means the world to me that you spend your time here. So thank you. And until the next video you're watching me, or up and see me in next, I'll see you there.